What is up, harvesters? My name is Ken. Welcome to Hobby Harvest. So today I want to talk to you guys about using buckwheat as a summer cover crop on your food plots, especially when it relates to first year food plots like this one is. So I had the wife and kids out here yesterday helping me as much as they could, but we cut this new food plot into the woods here on my northwest Wisconsin property. And now that it's cut in, what we did was we actually seeded the buckwheat into the standing natural vegetation. And then when we removed the branches and stuff from the trees that were cut down, that helped to really mat down the natural vegetation and really pound that seed down into the soil. Then after all that was done, we sprayed it with glyphosate, and I'm hoping I'm gonna have an awesome stand of buckwheat here that will carry me into about 6 to 7 weeks from now when I'm going to plant my fall forage mix on this food plot for the very first time. Now, buckwheat is amazing for building your soil quality. Up here in the big woods in northwestern Wisconsin, our soil quality is not that great. That's why there's hardly any ag in the area up here. So by using buckwheat as that summer cover crop, we're going to year after year build that very top layer of soil here. And after a few years of doing that, we're gonna have very good quality soil for planting food plots. So first year here, I'm not expecting a whole lot. I just want this buckwheat to come up. I wanna start to add that organic matter to the soil, and I wanna just see what I get up here. Up here, there's no ag in the area, like I said, so I'm just trying to get as much food in the woods as possible. Each year I add maybe another half acre of food. I'm going for about a 2-acre goal up here, but this is very far from where I live. I have 2 young kids. It's hard to get up here and put work into the woods up here. I'm somewhere around 1.5 acres of food now, so I'm getting real close to that goal of mine, but I also don't like making too many big changes at a time. I want to put this food plot in. We're gonna see how this season goes, and we're gonna adjust again next year. And so you can look at a property overall and make this awesome plan of how you're gonna create all of these habitat improvements, connect them all, and basically completely create that entire property. But all of us don't have a ton of time to get that all done in 1 year. So I like the sort of guess and check, as I like to call it, method, which, I mean, these are very educated guesses that I'm putting into the woods, but I like to add an attraction, add a big improvement to the woods, and then give it that year, just because I don't have the time to do it all in 1 year. And what my overall property goal would have been over here to what it's gonna actually look like over here is gonna be very different, because there's gonna be all of this timeline in here to adjust year to year. And you'll actually end up with a better end result over here than if you just went with what your first overall property design was here. So in doing that though, summer buckwheat, summer cover crop, excellent way to get that soil started for the long haul here. We want to get as much organic matter into the soil. Buckwheat is just an amazing thing for that. It grows very quickly. Like I said, it's 6 to 7 weeks. I'm going to terminate it. But what I will do then is I'll seed into the standing buckwheat. I will crimp the buckwheat similar to how I crimped all of the natural vegetation out here, just simply by dragging tree branches over them. And then I'm going to spray over the top of it to kill it, to terminate it, make sure it doesn't pop back up. That won't hurt that seed that is buried underneath that thatch. The gly isn't even getting down to the seed, it's only hitting that thatch on top. Same thing here with the buckwheat. Once the buckwheat was seeded down into the soil, everything was crimped over the top. I didn't soak the soil in enough water and gly to like even get it to get down below the foliage that's lying on top here. So now that this food plot's in, we got that buckwheat in, I'll come back, like I said, 6, 7 weeks, we're gonna plant, and we're gonna hope that what soil I have here is enough to sustain a crop. I'm betting that it probably isn't. I can throw fertilizer in here, I can throw lime in here, but getting it absolutely perfect that first year is very, very difficult, especially in the woods like this, in an area that's been untouched since the glaciers left up here. It's gonna be really hard to get something like beans and peas and brassicas to grow in here that first year. I'm still gonna try it because I know that I can rely on winter rye grain, not seed. We always need to clarify that, to grow here when, I'm assuming when, but if that fall forage seed fails up here or gets browsed down to nothing, I can still always come in here and throw down that winter rye as an emergency. I'll still have a nice food plot here to hunt this fall. And I'm going to then also, what's very important up here in the northwest part of Wisconsin, where we're right off of Lake Superior, we have very, very harsh winters up here. A ton of deer die when they're less than 2 years old up here. The idea of seeing a 5.5-year-old deer up here, not common because the winters are so harsh. So I like planting that winter rye anyway. I like giving them a full belly going into the winter. That winter rye will keep them fed well into the beginning of the winter or late fall, where everything else in the woods out here that's got a leaf on it right now will be long gone and died and buried under snow. Then the other thing is that winter rye is going to pop up first a couple weeks before spring green up, and I actually get the deer herd out here out of the winter that couple of weeks sooner, shortening that winter for them just a little bit, and that's enough to raise a larger, healthier deer herd up here, which gives us more options when it comes to what we want to harvest. So that all starts though with the buckwheat, which is why we got out here. First thing I did before I even cut a tree down out here, it was threw that seed down, cut the trees down, dragged them off. That essentially crimped the native vegetation for me and helped pack that seed into the soil so we get that good seed to soil contact. After that was done, I'm obviously always trying to get sunlight down in here. You can see I've got a decent amount behind me already, but year after year, as we continually improve our food plots, it's just open up more canopy, get more sunlight down in here. But it all hinges on that buckwheat, especially up here in the North Woods where you need to build that soil. That's why the very first thing I did on this first year food plot, get that buckwheat seed in. Now, like I said, you want to plant that buckwheat about 6 to 7 weeks before your target date of planting your fall forage seeds. So that's going to put me up here in the northwestern part of Wisconsin. It is now late June. That's actually a little late for planting buckwheat. I like to let my buckwheat grow a little bit more than that 6 to 7 week typical mark, be more towards like the 7 to 8 weeks up here. But life happened and I didn't get up here till now in late June. So I'm targeting that 6 to 7 week mark this year. That's going to put me at planting my fall forage seeds up here the beginning of August. Again, if those seeds fail or are browsed down to nothing or whatever happens, about the beginning of September, I can come up here, put some winter rye grain down and still have a successful food plot. But when you're talking about putting in that summer buckwheat, you want to be putting that down right about now if you haven't already. Now, if you're further south, like I have not put a summer cover crop in my southeastern Wisconsin food plot, I'm going to target that maybe next week, which is 4th of July weekend, maybe the week after. I'll be fine to wait that long. That'll put me at that 6 to 7 week mark out, being able to plant my fall forage seeds about mid-August, which is what I like to target down there. Down there, I'm not too worried. My soil's a heck of a lot better down there than it is up here. But up here, buckwheat is golden. You want to get that buckwheat in the soil. You are going to risk having your deer eat the buckwheat in a big wood setting like northwestern Wisconsin here, though, because that buckwheat, believe it or not, they won't touch it in southeastern Wisconsin because with all the egg fields and stuff, it's not a very attractive food source to them. But up here in the big woods, that buckwheat actually ends up being a pretty attractive food source to them because it's somewhere near the higher quality of food that's naturally in the woods out here, because the deer are otherwise left with like eating ferns and stuff. So of course they're going to eat the buckwheat, which does bring me to something. Typically you would seed buckwheat at about 50 pounds per acre, but here in the northern part of the state, I actually up that seed rate a little bit, somewhere around 60 to 70 pounds per acre, because I know the deer are going to browse it down to nothing. Now, as I add more and more food plots, I'm giving them more and more food, so they may not browse that buckwheat as much. I shouldn't say browse down to nothing, but they definitely don't let it get to that nice 3-foot tall stand of lush buckwheat that you expect at that 6 to 7 week mark. It's going to only be maybe 1 foot to 2 feet tall. So they are definitely nipping the tops off of it as it grows. That's why I upped the seed rate a little bit, because I'm not worried about the buckwheat itself crowding itself too much at that seed rate, because the deer are going to be nipping the tops off of it. So you can go a little bit higher seed rate in the north woods if you have that issue. And then again, just monitor it year to year, adjust year to year, you know, always kind of see what worked last year or how something worked last year, and then transition that into the next year, adjust to the next year. Don't just make a plan up front and then think that that's going to be the thing you need to follow all the way through. Always adjust year to year. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, consider liking it, consider subscribing so you don't miss out on more videos like this, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.